Welcome to our today discussion. My name is Akili Rashid Ngomage. Today we're going to discuss the concept of demand and supply and how it affects the level of a price. Starting with, when we say demand and supply, we mean the market force. In some books, they call market force of demand and supply. What is demand? Demand is willingness and ability to pay for the product at a given price in a specific period of time at a particular place. To define demand, it is a buyer side, and there are four elements. One, it is a price. Second, place. Third, quantities, and fourth, the willingness. Demand has many factors which affect demand. One of the factor, it is the price of the product itself. Another factor, it is the price of the related product. And there are some other factors. Let's look on the demand schedule. How do we get demand and the quantity demanded? Normally, when we are making marketing research, we collect data. And this data are being scheduled in a table. And this table is called the demand schedule. In other words, demand schedule is a table which shows the relationship between a price at different quantity level demanded or bought by the customer. Another element to look at is a demand graph or demand curve. The demand curve is a graphical representation of a demand schedule. You see? Or we can say it is a graphical representation of the quantity demanded at a different level of a price. And the demand curve normally slope from left to right downward. Or you can say from right to left upward. Another element we have to discuss, it is about a change in demand. We say demand and supply are the market force. Market force means determine the price. And this demand for supply, they may change. And their change brings some effect on a price level. Now let's look on the demand change. Demand change, it is a movement of entire demand curve, either upward or downward from original demand curve. If our original demand curve move upward, that we call increase in demand. If a demand curve move downward, this we call decrease in demand curve. We are going to look on the effect of whether demand have increased or demand has increased in a price level. Another thing to discuss, it is the change in quantity supplied. Change in quantity supplied, it is a movement of quantities that are both a price and a quantities at a same demand curve. For example, when a price is P0, the quantity is Q0. If there is any change in price, that is a decrease in price, also quantity demanded will increase. In other words, there is the inverse relationship between price and the quantity demanded. If a price decrease, quantity demanded increase. If a price increase, quantity demanded decrease. So after looking on the shortly on a demand, let's look on the supply. Supply, it is a willingness and the ability to offer for sale at a given price at a specific time in a particular place. When we talk about supply, we talk about the seller's side. When we talk about demand, we talk about a buyer's side. Now, we should not confuse between the supply and the production. Supply is when a seller is willing to offer for sale, is ready to bring a product to the market. While a production is just creation of a utility, creation of the products. Now, the producer can be ready to supply or store. Here we talk about the products that are ready being brought to the market. Now, supply normally has direct relationship with the quantity. When its price increases, quantity supplied also increases. And there is a minor factor which affects a supply. One of which it is a production, capacity, technology, the climatic condition for agricultural product, and some other factors. After looking on the definition of a supply, let's look on the change in supply. Change in supply, it is increase or decrease in quantity supplied. Or we can say it is an entire shift in a supply curve, either upward or downward from the original supply curve. The upward shift of a supply, it is decrease in supply. The downward shift in supply curve, it is increase in supply. And this may be caused with the many factors except the price of the product itself. For example, when there is a good climatic condition for the agricultural product, we are expecting supply will shift downward. If the climatic condition is not favorable, the supply will shift upward. Then another element you see, it is change in quantity supplied. This is a movement of a quantity in a same supply curve. Quantity, it is a price, and the quantity demanded. If a price increase, sellers are willing to offer for selling large quantity. So if a price increase, quantity supplied also will increase. If a price decrease, quantity supplied also will decrease. This is a simple definition and the meaning of a demand and the supply. Now let's look on the effects of these two market forces, demand and supply. And today we are going to look on the change in one force while the other force remain constant. Let us start with the change in demand. When demand increase, supply remain constant. This is our graph of our supply curve, and this is our original demand curve. Where supply curve meet demand curve, it is where we determine the price level. This we call equilibrium level 0. Equilibrium level 0 determine the price at 0 and the quantity at 0. At this point, both seller and buyer, they are ready to sell this amount of quantity at this price. When demand increase, due to the increased population, change in the price of related product, and the other factors, the entire demand curve will shift upward. That is increase in demand. The effect is, when a demand increase, both price and the quantity also will increase. And in that case, will be shifting from equilibrium 0 to equilibrium 1. We are having a new price, P1, and a new quantity demanded and supplied at Q2. Now let's look at the effect of change in demand, in decrease in demand. Also we have original supply curve, and we have original demand curve, where determine our original equilibrium point with the price 0, quantity 0. When the demand shifts downward, that is a decrease in demand. The effect, both price and the quantity will decrease. So having seen the effect of change in demand, let's look on the effect of change in supply. Also we assume the demand remains constant. We have original demand curve, we have original supply curve. This is our equilibrium point. We have P0 and a Q0. If supply increase, that supply move rightward or downward, we are going to have a new equilibrium. And the effect it is, price will decrease because the large amount of quantity will be offered for sale. Price will decrease, quantity will increase. And the last, the effect for today's discussion is when supply decrease. If a supply decrease, the entire supply curve shifts upward. And this may cause the price to increase from P0 to P1, and the quantity demanded will decrease, or quantity supplied will decrease from Q0 to Q1. My dear student, by today's discussion, we have learned we have two market forces, demand and supply, and these two market forces may affect the price level of a commodity. However, when demand increases, both levels will increase, price and quantities. When demand decreases, both price and quantity will decrease. But when a supply increase, quantity will increase, the price will decrease. When a supply decrease, price will increase, quantity will decrease. I hope you have enjoyed this lecture. Thank you. Welcome again.